everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rosie Speaks. Today, I am so excited to have Sekhet Arsyna, right? Did I say that right? Sweet. Sweet. On my show, she is an incredible artist and is also, are you a member of Horsemen yet? Or I don't know how it works.
No, I'm still a supplicant.
There we go.
Yeah, that was another one of those things that the pandemic kind of delayed. So,
well, she camps with the Horsemen, and I am so excited to have you. Welcome.
thank you.
So,
Good to be here.
I am so excited to have you on. How long, real quick, how long have you been actively playing in the SEA?
I started last year in May.
Yeah, so it's been a grand total of 14 months,
Yeah.
half of which we've been in quarantine.
Yeah.
So that's a really fun, how has that been? What has it been like to just discover this hobby and then have to not go to it?
It's like you're on a racetrack and then all of a sudden you hit a brick wall. So I know that a lot of people have done really well with moving into the online stuff, but I just can't. It's not the same thing being in front of physical people than being online. So that's been a struggle to kind of keep involved online.
So what have you been doing? How have you been handling it?
Honestly, I kind of live a quarantine life already. I'm not kidding. Before I started with the Horsemen, I live on a 50-acre ranch, and it's like 6 miles from like a gas station. So I'm used to being out in the middle of nowhere, and I have a lot of like farm animals, and so I'm used to just kind of like staying at home and like, feeding horses, feeding goats, and I'm surprised they haven't gone off. They're behind me. I've got like
that's amazing. Oh my God, that's so cool.
So I'm kind of used to that.
That's amazing.
Go ahead.
So it's sort of like just every day, right? Like you're occupied.
Yeah. Like this morning when I messaged you, I was in the middle of walking the dogs because we go for like a mile hike every morning. And then, feed goats, feed horses, and then like 10-ish, I get coffee finally. So yeah, people make fun of me, but I'm the only one who drinks coffee, and I will literally drink out of the container because it's just me and I don't care.
Because why not? I also have my coffee here. We recently got a puppy, and he is keeping us on our schedule pretty solidly. So we're up at 5:30, and so we got him how old? So he was born in March. We got him at 6 weeks old, and my family, there's 6 of us here. Sometimes we don't get along so great, so we had to create a shift schedule to take care of the puppy.
Aww.
So everybody had 6-hour shifts, and we would take rotations, at least when he was like really small, because we got him at 6 weeks, so he really couldn't be alone because he was literally just this like little bean.
Yeah.
And so like it took all of the effort 24/7 for a while, and then now that he's almost 5 months now, and he has now a very structured routine, and so he literally, if he's not sleeping in our room, he'll come and cry at our door at 5:30 no matter what. And so last night in real time, he slept in our room for the very first time. So we've started to allow him to not have to stay in the crate because we think that he is trained enough, not like really trained, but like house trained enough to be left alone. So he slept through the night in the room, and it was just like this like mind-boggling thing because we've had dogs our whole life, and never have I had a dog that was as behaved as he is at 5 months. And it's just like, oof. Structure, I love it. I'm all about it. So at least for this time, I've been a little occupied.
Well, I mean, that's kind of nice to be able to spend extra time with your fur family because before I started working from home, I've always been extremely connected with all my fur family, and it's hard leaving during the day, especially if you have a young animal. And we just decided to keep one because living out on the ranch, it's interesting, but like we get a lot of people that drop off animals. So we ended up keeping two that we got, and one of them had a litter. So we ended up keeping one of the puppies, and he's a mix of Jack Russell and Husky, believe it or not. Apparently it does happen. So he's not what you would think he would look like. He looks like a Jack Russell, just like big. Just a big Jack Russell.
So funny.
And you know, like the mix between Jack Russell and Husky are just like, I'm gonna like put this disclaimer out. I have a potty mouth, so I'm gonna really try not to curse.
No. This is a rated R show. Don't censor your fucks.
Awesome.
Don't censor your fucks. We're totally
awesome.
fine.
He is I don't even know what to expect. I've always had dogs. I've had border collies, and you know they're just maniacs. And but they're so, you know, they get it. Border collies get it quick. But this little guy, he'll be a year in September. But he's a nutcase, man. He's an absolute nutcase. And like he knows he's done something wrong. So he's figured out that like he knows he's done something wrong. And the minute he does it, he comes straight to my face and he tries to lick my face like he's gonna apologize before I scream at him. So I don't scream at him. I'm like, why don't you just not do it? Just not do it. But he's insane. And like you mentioned the regiment thing. I remember the first time he slept through the night because he has to sleep in between me and my husband. I don't know if you'd seen one of like the little cartoon character things. That's not a joke. It's serious. It's a serious problem. Except the little being of a dog that's like the gigantic being now tosses. So yeah, he's here, but he like will roll and roll and roll, but he'll roll in the blankets. So he'll like burrito himself up and pull blankets off of me. I'm like, you're just crazy. You get a butt in your face. I'm like, but the first night he stayed like asleep. I thought he was dead. I thought my husband had rolled over on him and like crushed him. And we woke up in the morning, restful sleep for the first time, and I thought he was dead.
I mean, like, I don't blame you.
Yeah. But it's the same thing every morning. He'll start in and he's like really mouthy, so you get your hand chewed on and your face chewed on. It's how you get up.
I know exactly what that's like. So we have one of those little, like, I don't know what they're called. I guess they're a door stopper, but you know those little like spring things that make that really obnoxious sound? So we have one of those on our bedroom door for some strange reason. And this morning he discovered it because he paws at the door when he has to go pee. He's very polite about it usually. So he'll just sit there and he'll scratch at the door and like whimper twice and then wait for you. And he's usually very good about it. But he does that to our back door, which doesn't have a door stop like that. So he did it to my door and flicked the spring, and I could have sworn he jumped into the sky. And I was like mostly concerned because like the way that right now the way that our room the room is set up, it's a little bit like I would had my podcasting table in my bedroom, which is really just a TV tray, and it's not stable or sturdy in any way whatsoever. And my 30-pound dog jumped into the sky in the direction of my brand new laptop that I literally have had for 1 week, and I was just like, ah. And then he went over and did it again. So now he's learned that it makes a sound that freaks me out. And I'm just like, great. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be wonderful. I was really happy that it didn't wake up my partner though, because he was, thankfully, it wasn't like a full blown, like that really obnoxious sound that just like echoes forever. It was just like lightly tapped obnoxious sound. Oh my goodness. Dogs, man. What would you do without him?
I don't know what I would do, honestly.
Me neither. Well, now that we've come out of this rabbit hole of dogs, which we'll go back in because he's taking his nap and is going to wake up in like 30 minutes and want to be in my face. Tell me, how did you find the SCA?
Oh, I've always known about the SCA. I had two of my really close friends were quite involved in it, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And my husband and I went to Darkwell about 15, 20 years ago. And we helped them, they had set up this huge pavilion. It was like a multi-room pavilion. And so we helped them set it up, and we played like basically servant type roles. And that was my first experience with the SCA. And after that, it was just kind of like, oh, that was cool. But it was kind of like their thing, and we kind of had our thing going on. So it never really clicked. And then by the time we were like really starting to get interested in it, because my husband was interested in the fighting. And so they'd actually, had built shields and made some swords and started kind of playing with that. And then around that time, I don't know what kind of distraction we had, but the friends of ours just kind of stopped doing it. So then we were like, well, we're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So we ended up in a new hobby, and which was paintball. We started competing in paintball. Did that for 3 or 4 years. We were in like national magazines and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. And then that fell off, as it usually does. It ran its course. But we've always had like physical activities that we did. So we went, I don't know, I started belly dancing after that. I did that for like 8 years. But he didn't have anything going on, so he was just kind of working. So he'd always just kind of mention, oh, maybe I'll get into martial arts again, or maybe I'll do this. But it never really like kind of clicked. So finally, like I had been out of belly dance for, like 4 or 5 years. He wasn't doing anything, so we were kind of like, okay, what do we want to do? And so we kind of looked into the SCA again, and it was really not anything like serious. It just kind of happened organically, which is it's interesting. So I had a snake at the time, and I would go into Petco and get mice for the snake, because if you're going to have an animal, you might as well allow it to be as natural as you can. So the whole feeding frozen mice to me was kind of like, why they need to hunt. So I would regularly go in, and there was Gestas. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of cool. And he was always kind of quirky. He'd say just like the offhandish things. I'd go in, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get this little fucker right here because he's like tormenting all the other mice. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, all right, well, he's going to get eaten, so I guess he deserved it. So he would always have some weird little story attached to the mouse. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if he was just like sensed that I was kind of like, I don't want to kill the mouse, but I got to feed the snake. It's the circle of life. So he's like, oh, well, this one is a little shit anyway, so he needs to die. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel better about killing the mouse, I guess. So I don't know. So we went like months and months of like every time we'd go in to get a mouse, and he was there. And so husband and I still trying to toss around what we're going to do as a hobby. I had gotten into some of the cosplay stuff because I did a lot of costuming for the troupe that I was with. So naturally, I wanted to continue doing something. So I started doing a little bit of cosplay, and we saw that at the current county fair here, there was going to be a Renaissance fair. We've been to rent fairs. We've been to like the two big ones that happen yearly here in California. And but we'd never gone back to them. It was a little weird just going him and I, then not with a big crew. So we were kind of like, oh, it's locally here in town. Why don't we just check it out? So we went, and one of my cosplay stuff I like to do is like the Assassin's Creed stuff. So we went in all like full decked out Assassin's Creed garb stuff. And we walk by, we hear like a bunch of banging and stuff, and I'm like, oh, let's check that out. I walk by, and I'm like, that's a mouse guy. And it was Gestus. And we both looked at each other, and we're like, all right. And he's talking to me about my like costuming stuff, and I give him like a business card, and we're just still looking at each other like, why do you smell familiar? You know, like why is this? So we walk off, and we're, you know, looking around at more stuff, and we come back, and we're like, I know it was you. So we figured that out. And then, so over the course of a year, yeah, it took that long, because at this point I was really doing very minimal cosplay stuff, but mostly I had decided to start my own business doing leatherworking. So I do that, like, that's all I do with my time, from like done feeding goats to, you know, going to sleep at night. In between those, I'm leatherworking, and that's what I do. So I just got off on a tangent. Okay, so we trade business cards and everything, and over the course of a year, he's talking and chatting with my husband, and I'm just like blinders on working, right? I'm like, all right, well, he's gonna figure it out, whatever he wants to do, we're gonna go do it, but until then, I'm just gonna work. So Gestus, like, over the course of a year, is like, hey, you should come out to a practice, you should come out to a practice, hey, you should come out to a practice. So finally, my husband's just like, all right, we'll go out to a practice. And we show up, and it was just like, I don't know, like meeting somebody you've known for years. Weird. I don't know. It just felt like natural, normal, and everybody was so like great, really. And that wasn't just like a facade that, you know, meet somebody, the first impressions, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm, you know, the greatest person. And then weeks from now, you're like, this ain't gonna work. It wasn't a facade. It was like you kept coming practices, and then you showed up to parties, and then you went to events with them, and the attitudes were all what they were from the beginning. So, and that was a whole new thing for me, because I tend to be a little more, I know it's a bad trait, but the minute I notice that somebody's just got just a negative feeling about them, it's like, I don't need that. So I don't want that. And it's just kind of like, peace out. I'll peace out quick, like quick. And I don't need to have a discussion about it either, because it's like, you have friends, I have friends. We don't need to have this weird thing. So I'm just going to go over here. But I never had those sorts of feelings with it, because everybody was so transparent, which was weird. Then you go to events and you meet people that are also transparent. It's like, huh, all right, this is kind of cool. So you feed off of that, like, great energy, you know, and that kind of goes back to why I'm so shitty about getting online, is because you don't get those energies from people when you're at an event and you're like watching people fight, and everybody's supporting the fighters and supporting the artists, and you get to like chit chat with people, even just if it's quiet and you're watching people fight and you're sitting next to them, you get that like energy of excitement from them. So it just don't get that online. It's so hard to like motivate myself to be on a computer, you know. I don't know.
Well, I deeply appreciate that you are taking time away from your goats to spend with me. It makes me really excited. And also, I have to tell you, sorry, I'm going to fall down or go on a tangent really fast about your goats, because we were at Navaheim anniversary. I don't know. We were at an event and it was my little sister's best friend's very first SEA event. Like first ever. And she comes up to me and she says, "Where are the baby goats?" And I looked at her and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "No, there are baby goats. Where are they? I need them." And I looked at her and I was just like, "Are you on crack?" Like, I get that this is a medieval event and I know that this is your first thing, but why do you think that we just have farm animals at our events for no reason? Turns out there were baby goats at that event in a car or in a van. She was not kidding. So she still talks about it, about how at her very first SEA event, there were baby goats, and that makes her first SEA event better than everybody else's, unless there are more baby animals there. It was amazing.
That was so unplanned too, because like we were trying to make every event, and it was hard because that was our breeding season. And we kind of, it's our first year breeding, and I don't like to breed animals, but living on a ranch, we have ag water, and in order to keep our ag water, we have to have an ag-related business. So we looked into several different types of things, and I was honestly interested in beekeeping, and we have a couple hives out here. But we ran into some African eyes, and it kind of changed everybody's feeling about beekeeping out here, except for my husband and I. So we were looking at doing a family type of business, so we kind of got outvoted with the apiary. We went with goats. So first year around, looking into how everybody keeps goats, and we like the natural way of doing things. So we wanted them to just stay as a herd, males and females together. And then we took like what's called like a buck apron, basically keeps the bucks from breeding with the does too early. That did not work. And there's crazy, you probably don't want to hear about reasons why it doesn't work, but it doesn't work. Absolutely
I want
not.
to hear about it.
But oh, you do?
I used to,
oh, you do?
Course,
okay,
I do.
So male goats' penises are freaking crazy. We learned this real quick. They come out, but they're like prehensile. I swear to freaking God, they like prehensile. Like it's out, and then it's like, oh, it's over here. Oh, it's over here. So you have this buck apron, and it's like this apron, you know, like this big, and it's supposed to like, you know, hang down from a little harness on the male goat. But penis will come out and just go poop around that buck apron. I'm like, this is a dumb product. This is obviously not going to work. And it didn't. So all of our females ended up pregnant at random freaking times. So we had to just watch them and go, all right, she's big and gonna pop. Is she gonna pop? I don't know if she's gonna pop. And so there were events where we were like, oh crap, there's signs are gonna go. Now we can't go to the event because Nigerians are notorious for, and they're African, they're Nigerian dwarf goats. So they're the tiny ones. They will have their babies in a matter of 30 minutes, no matter how many they have. They just like, boop, 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 boop. But if they don't, it's a problem. And you gotta like go in and like start helping or everyone dies. So it's like, oh, this is great, 30 minutes, done. Or, oh crap, this is gonna be a hard, couple of hours trying to help this goat. So we diligently watched them. And so there were several events there where we were packed in the car. Like literally I was dressed in an Egyptian dress, and we were like, okay, let's go. We warehouse our goats at night until they got used to being outdoor. They're outdoor now. So we warehoused them at night. So we go in and we're like, okay, before we leave for the event, we'll go in, feed them hay, give them their grain, check their water, blah, blah, blah. So we've got the car packed. I'm dressed. We're expecting to just, feed them and go. We walk in there. I'm like, oh, shit. One of them's having babies. And I'm like literally there, not joking, in an Egyptian dress, like with goat stuff everywhere. And I'm like trying to tuck the dress in my top because I don't want it to get gross. And it's just like, that's just what happens out here. So I'm like messaging, my horseman contacts, my car as my sponsor. And I'm like, so, hey, not coming. I don't know. We might make it if everything goes well. We might not. So literally, that's how an event got canceled. The Navaheim one had the babies. Bad situation. Lost mama. Lost one of the babies. And we were bottle feeding. We were bottle feeding 2 of them before because mama was like going downhill and she didn't want to have anything to do with the babies. So again, we like to do things natural. We let the mamas raise babies, and we'll just go in there frequently so they're great with people, and that works. Well, this time around, she wanted nothing to do with them. Turns out she ended up dying the next day. So we had the 2 bottle babies. Event comes, and this is like they're 3 weeks old, I think, 2.5. Yeah, they were really, really tiny. And we were like, well, we can't leave them. We have to feed them 4 times a day. Like, are we just not going to go to an event? And I'm like, oh, no, we've had goats in our car before. Just take them with us. I don't think anybody's going to care. It's an outdoor event. All right. So we just take the goats. I'm like, all right, goats, let's go. And they handled it really well. That was their first car ride. Didn't have any problems. So, yeah, it was totally not planned. But I will say that it turned out so well that people, like, I didn't know how people were going to react because they're goats,
Goats, yeah.
We were like, yeah, if they weren't in the car, doing their thing in our crate, they would be doing their thing on the grass. So it's just kind of like, hey, you don't know what to expect. So I kind of tried to keep them mostly in the car, and they mostly slept anyways because that's how baby goats are. But now I kind of want to regularly bring them to events. So I think I already am. I have one female goat that is obnoxiously social. She's our talkative goat, and her baby that she had is even more talkative. So it's like they're the town criers of the goats, and I think she'll be pretty good, but she's an adult, so she's not going to be like baby cute, but she's pretty dang social. So I was like,
I mean, all goats are cute, so it's fine.
Yeah,
all of them are adorable. Make her
a little tabard with like,
yes. Oh my gosh, and oh my god, she could be like a water bearing goat. With like,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you could in the tabard you could put little water pockets, and then you could just send your goat amongst your horsemen.
Who's gonna do that? Oh my god!
And your goat can water your horsemen, and it will be hilarious.
Oh my god!
I'm amazing. Okay, so now that we've talked a lot about animals, and we'll talk more about animals because animals, I have a couple of questions for about your art. Okay. So you said that you do, first I would like to ask, what art do you do? Actually, hold on, my computer's gonna die, so I'm gonna plug my computer in. Shit. La-di-da-di-da.
Show brought to you by I literally live off of coffee and spite.
Oh my god, me too. I also love that it sounds like a woodland forest in your background.
There are a lot of trees out here, yes.
It's just like, it just sounds like, I just hear birds and like tinkling things, and it just sounds like a magical woodland forest. Okay, so now that I have plugged in my computer and it's not going to die, what art do you do? You had mentioned that you do leatherworking, like in the real world is what you meant, right? Like outside of the SCA? That's
Yeah,
what you do?
outside of the
So aside from that, what else do you do?
well, I've dabbled in just about everything. Leatherworking was where it kind of never gets boring for me. But when I was in college, I did pottery. I did that for like 4 years. That was a lot of fun. My intentions are to get back to that. I have a wheel, a kiln that's never been used since I bought it. Um, so that was something I really really enjoyed doing. Very therapeutic. I did painting when I was younger. Didn't really like do it regularly. I mean, it was fun, but um, and then the leatherworking started like like 2000, early 2000s, and it was just like I was too broke to buy anything. So it was like I could probably try and yeah, seriously, most of what I do is because well now it's just because why not? But in my like 20s, it was like I'm freaking broke, college student. I want this thing is cool, so maybe I'll try and figure it out. So leatherworking was one of those things. There were a lot of things along the way that started out because of that, because I liked it and I was going to figure out how to do it. But leatherworking was the only one where it was like constantly thinking about, and the medium you could do so many different things with. So it wasn't just like, it was multifaceted. So um, then when I got with the SCA, it really allowed me to kind of step away from the leatherworking. Like for a while, the first few art stuff I did was not leatherworking. And so when I started really, really doing more of the competitions, like I can remember Lady Cat, Dread Mom to me, she was like, so what
Her Highness?
are you going yeah, or yeah.
Her Highness Princess Catherine?
Exactly. She was like, so what do you want to focus on? Because if you're going to do this, you have to have a focus of some sort. I mean, we can't, put you in all categories. So it was like, oh, well, my preference is leatherworking. That's just what I do. But it was like, I didn't just join the SCA to like do what I currently do. And I've told several people this that have talked to me about art and stuff that I work all the freaking time, and it's always leatherworking, constantly leatherworking. I touch leather every freaking day for hours and hours a day. One of the reasons why I couldn't fight for the SCA, which I did, I started out as a heavy fighter, loved it. My wrists are so freaking bad from hammering, from tooling, that I'm not kidding. Like I can't, like this wrist is still messed up. Like right now, it goes through periods where it's like, all right, I could use my wrist. And then I go through periods where I'm like, all right, I can ice this all day. But using a sword and taking the vibration hits, I couldn't do it. So I had to decide like, all right, am I going to keep trying to work with a messed up wrist because of fighting, or am I just going to finally decide to choose the art path? And I was trying to do both of them at the same time, which I was told, yeah, go ahead and do it. But my wrist just couldn't handle it. So when, I was posed with the question of like what medium I want to focus on, ultimately it was like, well, I don't want to do leatherworking because I do that all the time. So I guess my own compromise was to, instead of entering one item, I'd enter several. And one of them would be leatherworking, and the rest would be shit I wanted to do. I wanted to experiment with it. Like, I'd always dabbled in jewelry making, jewelry making, but it was always just kind of like, oh yeah, I have beads, whatever. And then when I started researching Egyptian stuff, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do some metalworking. Maybe I'll, try to incorporate leather in the neck pieces. Because at the time I was really interested in doing metalworking. These pieces are supposed to be metal, but they're not, they're leather. Because I had on my, list of crazy stuff I'd like to learn was metalworking, but it was like, oh, I have a week to do this art piece for an event. So go with what, yeah, seriously, that's another thing. Go with what you know. So.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to rudely interrupt you because
No, you're good.
I know what event you're talking about, and I know all the art pieces that you entered, and I know that you said I have a week to do this. So after we're recording this, I'm gonna have you send me the pictures of what you did in a week, and they're gonna like flash over the screen right now, and you're gonna see that she's just like casually talking like, oh, I'll just do this in a week. You know what I can do in a week? This hem. This is what I can do in a week. That's it. That's what you got. So now you see this, and then here's some more pictures of her fucking gorgeous shit that she did in a week. Okay, you can go on now. I'm sorry. I had to rudely interrupt you.
I'm sorry. I just don't think about it. My brain is very like task oriented. So like when I'm working, like literally I have backed up orders all the freaking time. I have 3 armor orders right now that have been due that I'm still trying to freaking work on, and then smaller pieces. And so that doesn't change. Like that's constant. So adding the SEA to it was like, where the freak am I going to find the time? So there's been events where I've like the King Tut dagger. I did that in 4 days. I had a allotted amount of time that I had to do things in. So it had to be done or it wasn't going to be done at all. So there was like.
She's going to send me pictures of all of these.
Yeah.
And when she says them, I'm just going to like put them on the screen and like, and then you can also be mildly annoyed at her for being so fucking incredible. Okay, again, go ahead. Sorry, interrupting.
No, you're fine. So like, there's been times where I've like, you just kind of have to do it and see if it works out. And if it doesn't, nobody knows that it didn't if you don't bring it. So the Tut dagger was one of those things. I'm not kidding. So it's funny, and I'm going to bring Alexander into this, and I know he's going to probably either laugh or just be like, why do you even? So at a party, he was joking because he was like, what don't you do? And I'm like, I don't know. And he was like, you don't blacksmith. And I was like, no, I haven't gotten into smithing. And he's like, that's because you're a girl. And he was joking with me because he's always trying to joke with me. And I was like, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. And the Festival of the Rose, I was like, yeah, I'm making a dagger. So that's going to happen now. So it was like the last thing I was working on for the Festival of the Rose stuff. And working the dagger, the metal part, the brass part was great. Because I was familiar with the equipment already. I like building stuff. So using saws and like the industrial sander benches and stuff like that, I'm fine with. So I tell everybody this when you're doing an art, that once you learn what what you can do with the medium, at that point it's just about how far you can manipulate what you know about the medium itself. So working the blade was just fine. I mean, I cut it out and sanded it, and it was just kind of like sculpting. I mean, you start with something and then you kind of chisel away at it, and that's the same concept with working the blade. You're just kind of like getting rid of material you don't want there when you're sanding it. So the blade was fine. Woodworking I had done. I really, really enjoy woodworking. So the handle was woodworked out of eucalyptus, and I'd done carving, like straight start to finish, carving with one hand wood tool. Yeah, and I knew I wasn't going to do it this round because I had 4 days. So I bought a compressor-driven this like grinder pin, and it's freaking amazing. I got it from Harbor Freight for like $30. Plugs into an air presser, and you just freaking drill away. So I just sat where I'm sitting now. I'm on this huge like swing thing, and I just like drew the pattern on the handle, and then just started, my brain wandered, and I just did it. But I will say, I didn't think it was going to happen because I tried using gold leaf, which I'd never done before. So typically when I do this stuff, and I say I had 4 days, but when I plan to do stuff, I know typically months in advance. I have an idea of things I want to do. I start researching the crap out of it. So I watch YouTube videos galore. I do all the research. I take screenshots. I zoom in on stuff. So all that stuff is done before I ever touch a piece. So in my head, I'm like building it as I go before I ever touch anything. So I have a game plan before I start on something. Gold leaf was a monster. I hate it. like I will avoid it if I ever have another piece that requires gold leaf. I don't like it. So I had 4 days, and the gold leaf I had, swear everything I found online, it was like, all right, well, you need a day to let the glue kind of dry out. So I'm like gold leaving this. I'm at day 2, and I'm like, good. I only need a day to let it sit and dry. And like, it's still tacky, it's still tacky, it's still tacky. And I can't paint on top of it yet because it's got blue and red details on it, and I can't paint until it's dry. And so I'm like sitting there, and it's still tacky, it's still tacky, it's still tacky. I'm like, oh my God. So it's like 3 a.m. and I'm doing like all my documentation and stuff, and I'm waiting for it, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna paint it, and then it'll have, you know, whatever it's got. And thankfully it ended up drying. But man, it's a lot of times you just kind of like, you have a plan, but you know, if it didn't work out, nobody knew I was going to bring a dagger. So it would have sucked to not bring it, but it could have been used for another event later. So it's like, you just roll with it. If it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, going back to having limited hours with my work, like I kind of have to squeeze things in. So I knew I had a week to get everything done, but it's like the champron I did a week to do the whole thing. But I chose a piece that I knew I was going to be able to do because it's mostly leather working. First time doing acid etching on metal, but I YouTubed the crap out of it, and I tested some metal pieces, and I figured it out. And so at that point, it was just monotonous installing dome prongs. So it was more, oh crap, am I going to have enough time to do all these dome prongs? So you work with the time you have. So, but literally
that's inspiring as fuck. I just like, because you're saying, so what you're really saying is that you actually spend a whole lot of your spare time doing all this pre-work beforehand. And maybe in your mind, you're not like registering it as pre-work, because you're just like, oh, well, I'm interested in this thing. So in my free time, I'm going to look at this thing that I'm interested in. So it doesn't feel like you're really doing any work. Yeah. And then you practiced on like other things and did like whatever. And then you did your actual thing. So you have a whole process. Yeah. So I love that. It's really inspiring. It's still terrifying that like you can do something as beautiful as that chamfron in a week, or that dagger in 4 days, or any of the things that you can do, because I just love art. So I'm just going to like brag about your art for 100 years, but it's incredible. And it's really funny because my 2 secret producers call me out on this all the time, because I don't think I have an art. I have a very logic oriented brain. So it's, oh yeah, you can sew these pleats, but it's practical so that you don't have like awkward sleeves, because your chest is not the size of a normal Grecian body. So you have to like make the things, and you have to make it work. And I think that it's practical. I don't think it's an art. Yeah. But then again, like you can't see my hem on the outside.
Yeah.
You just can't, because I've learned how to do that after watching other people do it and doing all the thing and blah, 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 blah. But actually what I've recently been called out on is my podcast, or this show. I've been called out as this show being art. I don't think this show is art. It's just a thing to keep me occupied so that my depression doesn't get out of control. However,
freaking said that. I really did, because I have extreme anxiety.
Oh, it's horrible.
If I don't work, if I'm not doing something to keep me busy, I have an anxiety attack, and then I erupt in hives.
So the thing that's really been getting to me is I quit my job on purpose the week before COVID happened. I was being treated poorly and things were just not great. I had an injury that I wasn't healing from, and it was just like, oh, well, it was time for me to move on and do something different. And so I put in all of my permits and applications to become a substitute teacher for both LA County and San Bernardino County. And then the world ended. And so because of that, I qualify for no unemployment. And so it just sort of spiraled into this really unpleasant, gross thing. And okay, hold on. I have to fix my hair.
You're good. Happy birthday.
Oh my God, it was making me crazy. Okay. So I literally, I think between two peers, which was the original, like where I got this inspiration from. So Sir Helga and Mistress Tulia out of the West, or I'm sorry, hold on. It's Majestica Tulia. There's a new, she has a new term. I think it's Magnifica Tulia. Or she is the sassy seamstress for that show. And I watched one of their episodes and I'm just like, oh, well, and then like, I was loving it because they were having people on that I knew, but somebody came to me and was just like, oh, am I allowed to watch this show because I'm not a peer? And I'm like, fuck that, of course you were. Like, it was just one of those like questions that was just like shocking to me that I like didn't respond to it appropriately in the moment. Cause like, I took it as just like, why would you ask such a silly question? Because I know the people who are doing it, because I am friendly with them. And so it didn't feel strange to me. But this individual who came to me as the way I would go to Helga. And that was a huge realization for me, that there really are people who feel like they can't interact with other humans because of their titles or their stations or their whatever. And that was on Friday. And the next morning I had my first episode. So literally in 3 days, I went from not doing anything during quarantine to having a whole ass show. And apparently that's not a normal, that's a skill. Yeah. I didn't know that. These are just things that I know how to do. And it is just like, I don't know, I guess in my weird brain, I don't feel like I can do an art because I'm doing this for me. Because I'm doing this to keep myself sane. But then I had Gestus on, I don't actually know in recording time when I had him on, or in a air date when I had him on, but I know in recording time, I had him on 2 days ago or last week. And he told me, basically, without knowing what my goals are for this show, like what my whole purpose was for creating this show, he repeated to me that information. Yeah. And I'm just like, I have successfully done the thing. So if I wanted you to be the last episode, I will have already accomplished my goal.
That's awesome.
But I'm recording this in July. This is coming out August 3rd. So I could be done today and I have accomplished my goal, but I'm still doing it. And I'm still going on, and I still have some incredible guests that like I didn't even know that people didn't talk to. And I'm just like, what do you mean you don't see, I keep wanting to call you Scarlett because that's what you were introduced to me as. So I'm really happy that your actual SEA name also starts with an S, so it's less confusing. Like,
That was
what do
on
you,
purpose.
I believe it. That's why, so, sorry, tangent again. That's why Brandon picked Brienne because it's close enough to Brandon that it works, but it's also like trips everybody up because there are 9 N's in his SEA name. So when you look at it, it doesn't make, it's complicated. So the Heralds don't like it, but he likes it because it sounds like his actual name.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to hear that, I guess getting called out that this is an art form was a very interesting realization for me because I really do just talk to everybody. That's my goal, is I want everybody to get talked to. I want everybody's story to get shared. I want everybody to remember and realize that we are all still human and we all have anxiety and we are all very awkward and we all have these things that we all suffer with. Nobody is alone in this. And I think that it's really hard to be open about it, especially online. And right now we're seeing lots of chaos and lots of change happening and lots of painful truths coming out, and a lot of it's really hard. And I think that it's this Pippin, excuse you. Hey, hold on. He's literally just barking at the door, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And so it's hard for people to admit, but we're all awkward. All of us have our things. All of us have our concerns. It's so funny. I get more nervous talking to people that I do know than I do talking to people that I do not know. And I'm not sure if it's because in my real job or like my skill set is in publicity. So like I'm very good at, oh, that person doesn't know me, but I need them to do a thing for me. I'm going to make that happen. That's my skill. I can do that very, very well. But I didn't see how that was, like, it's hard for people to get it. Cause like so for example, I've had Duchess Helga, Duchess Faiza, and Duchess Anna on my show. And all of them I have at separate times hung out with, like without having SEA shit to do with anything. Duchess Anna's given me tattoos. I think I've been to Faiza's house. I mean, not that I know where it is or anything because, you know, Alexander, I don't know nothing. I know nothing. And I have spent so much time with with Helga at out of kingdom events, and she is my go-to human for like, oh, I'm awkward and nervous at this event where a lot of people know who I am, but I don't know them. So I'm going to come hide behind this person. Oh shit, she's the queen. I'm going to go over there. So like, it's so funny that the weird, awkward things that we all have, but nobody's alone. Nobody's alone in that.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's alone. And COVID makes it worse. So yes, I absolutely understand that. Okay, back to art. Sorry, more tangents.
I'm fine with it.
Great. Pan sent a question in, and Pan asks, what was your favorite piece to work on and why? Specifically SEA related. And I'm going to walk away, but I'm still listening because I'm going to put my puppy inside.
Oh, that's a really hard question. Holy crap. You know, I like every piece for different reasons. I think my favorite one, I guess, I did it right before I actually joined the SCA, and it hadn't been seen, but I did it because I'm really big into meditation. and I made a rattle. And at one of the events, I think it was Angels. It was an Angels event. It was the Back to the Future themed one. So it was
The melee.
Yeah.
Angels
so,
melee.
Yeah. So it was the theme was for the arts was basically showing art traveling through time. So I had my rattle had never been seen, and I knew I wanted to make more rattles. So I was like, I'm gonna make rattles. So all of those rattles were awesome to do, but my favorite one was the one I purposely made for meditation. And it was made from everything found out here on the ranch. So I like something about being out here. I like the outdoors, but I specifically like this place. So I feel connected to it. So all the pieces I found on the property. So the handle of it's eucalyptus. It fell off of one of the eucalyptus trees here. Gourds grow naturally out here. So the head of it that actually has crushed quartz that's found on the property. The actual rattle part of it was a dried gourd. I added little leather leaves on it because that was my connection with leather working, and it was like an animal connection. So you have like trees, you've got minerals, you've got like I took actual like dirt from a tree that I really really like out here and pine needles and put it inside the handle of the rattle. So it has very like spiritual connection for me. So that was my favorite one probably. But as far as like, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was an SDA prompted one because I had it made before, but I mean, that's a really, really hard question. Specifically, if more of a broad reason why I like certain pieces is mostly if it's something I haven't worked with before, any medium that I haven't worked with, because I like being able to learn new things. So like the Egyptian coal pot I did, that was the first time I did stoneworking. And I found the stone when I was riding my horse on a trail here. And I looked down and I was like, that's a bright stone. I'm like, I'm going to come back for that. That's what I'm going to make that piece out of. And so it was just the weird little connections out here. And then it turns into a piece and it's something I haven't worked with. And so anything that has that, I guess, I really, really enjoy doing because I like learning new stuff. So thanks, Pan.
Can I come to your house? I want to see your favorite tree and touch your rocks. Oh God, that sounds like the best day ever.
Crazy, because like, so the property's been in the family for 40 plus years, and we're in the process of building houses out here. So even before the pandemic, it was like, God, I want to invite people out here. But literally, and people like always go, I had no idea you were doing all this. I'm in an RV, an 80 square foot RV on the property doing all this crap because we're in the process of building houses. So I can't have anyone out because it's like, oh, you want to hang out in my RV? You know?
No, I don't want to hang out in your RV. I want to hang out under your favorite tree and touch the dirt. I don't give a shit about your RV. How rude of me. But like, I just want to touch your favorite tree. I want to meet your trees and your goats and your horses. And I want, no, I don't care. I am, so I've lived in the city my whole life, but I've always been about super, super, super into nature. And it was really funny. So yesterday, I was editing one of our episodes, and I was like sitting in a different location than this because right now this couch is on its way to hell because it's infested with spiders that eat me alive. And like, I don't know if you can still see them, but I have like 5 or 6 bites just like up my arms right here. Yep, right there. 1, 2, 3. Because of the fucking whatever, like we had a little nest up in one of our corners that must have hatched recently. And so like for a little while it was raining tiny white spiders, and we thought that that they were just gonna like fly away. Like literally in Charlotte's Web, you know, at the end when they like they fly, we thought they would leave. They didn't. They decided that this couch was going to be their home, and that I'm the most delicious meal ever. So we bought a new couch, and this one is not going away. But I was in my other space yesterday, and I looked down and I realized that I had a collection of rocks in my space. So I literally had like 15 little different rocks in my little space. And I texted my secret producers that, and so now the joke is that I'm a little magpie, because literally I just like collect rocks. I don't know if I still have it. Oh, I do. This is my favorite rock. It's my favorite rock because a month ago, my dog, Pippin, brought it to me. We don't have these rocks in our house. Nowhere on our entire property do we have this kind of rock at all. It's like one of those like very soft, smooth, like river pebbles. We just have like concrete broken up into little pieces, and like normal like California orange rocks. That's it. So he just came up, and the motherfucker just like chews on rocks, and it drives me insane. Dang puppies and them teething and the stuff and the whatever. So he'll just like bite on rocks forever, and it drives us all crazy. And he delicately placed this at my feet.
Oh.
So he literally like comes bounding up, and he's still super dopey. So he's mostly like elbows and paws and ears. So like he's like flopping out his paws, and his ears like stick out like this. And so he's like flying like Dumbo. And we're just like, what do you got? What do you got? And he comes over directly to me, and there's like my mom and my sister and my brother. So there's a bunch of us out here. And he just like places this rock gently at my feet. And I'm just like, oh, well, obviously this is my rock now. Thank you, Mr. Penguin, apparently bringing me rocks. But no, so that's like, I'm all about just, I want to meet your fucking ranch. That's it. Just show me your animals and all of your stuff. That sounds great.
Our hopes is to maybe host an event out here.
I'm about it.
So
you have a big enough space. Yeah.
And then once the house is built, we'll at least have the ability to have some sort of amenities out here. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope for that day. Okay, I have 2 more questions, and then my lunch just arrived, so I'm gonna get that, what I'm really excited about. Hold on, actually, let me text my. Okay, so I'm saving the funniest question that we got for last because I think it's hysterical. Actually, I also lied. There's 3 questions.
Okay.
This next question is, what piece or pieces took you the most time to create?
Oh, that one's easy. The first Egyptian necklace I made, I had no idea how to bead it or anything, and I actually like put it together a couple of times and then took it apart because it just wasn't fitting right. So it took, I started on that one. I wanted a necklace to begin with, so the intention wasn't that it was going to be in the Festival of the Rose last year. I wanted one, and I saw one on the Met Museum page, and I was like, oh my God, I want that. So I bought all the materials, and it was so freaking expensive. So I have OCD. Once I decide, I'm not kidding. I gotta interject.
You live on a ranch and you have OCD? Poor baby. Yeah. Oh my God, I want to give you a hug.
So once I design something in my head, I can't really deviate from it or also feel like I don't like it in the end.
That's me with cooking. I feel you so much.
Oh God, I can't.
I'll just throw it all away and start over. It's okay. Yep. It doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 5 hours.
So I knew that my heraldry colors were going to be blue, black, and a couple of different golds. So the original necklace was carnelian and jasper and onyx. And, so I knew I was going to deviate from that with my heraldry colors. Well, lapis lazuli isn't exactly the cheapest shit to buy. So over the course of like 3 months, I bought enough supplies to do it. So initially it did start, 3 months prior by buying stuff. But I had putting it together though, it took like, I think it took 2 months to figure out. I had to take it apart, put it back together. And if you look at the original necklace, the first row of beads is, 14 millimeters. And then it like decreases. Okay, let's use this necklace because I'm wearing it. So on the first one, it's wide here and then it decreases towards the end. Well, the beads I bought were all 14 millimeters. So I had to sand them all down to decrease it to actually have it fit like the original piece. Oh, that's the one I did for Shira. Yeah. Yeah, it's the top is similar, but hers didn't have to decrease. So that's all like, I think 9 millimeter. But the original one I did, it's the one with the, I mean, I could go grab it. Hold on, I'll go grab it. Let me run and get it. And you're muted. I don't know if that's on purpose, but I can't hear you.
Oh, it wasn't on purpose.
This one. Da, 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 da.
Oh, that's right. I remember. Okay. Yes.
So,
oh my gosh.
See, they all decreased all the way up to here. They were all originally
the same length.
Right here. So.
Oh, I bet that was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So when I originally put it together, I didn't have the decrease, and it wasn't like fitting right. So then I had to take it apart and then sand all the pieces down and then reconnect them. So that one was, yeah, it took a really long time.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah, the leather working part of it was the easiest part of it because I was used to doing it.
Just doing your own thing. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that by far, yeah, I think that's the longest thing I've worked on. Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, so my next question is, how did you land in Egypt?
It wasn't that hard. I've always been interested in the Egyptian culture and a little bit obsessed with it when I was younger, but so picking it wasn't very hard. Like right when I was working on a persona, it was like, go Egyptian. Now the background of it though, I have no freaking clue because I can't narrow down a time that I like.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards the later period just because I love all the different like periods of Egyptian culture. So it makes more sense to be at the tail end because then I could encompass all of that in like historical value. So, but I haven't landed on it because my husband's Viking. So I'm like,
you don't have to be the same. You can be
I know. But in my head, that OCD thing, I'm like, how are we going to meet up? And then the horsemen are Roman. So it's like, So I haven't written the storyline.
Well, firstly, do what makes you happy. Yep. I promise the horsemen will support you and his Viking butt too.
Oh yeah, they do.
And also tangent about your husband, fucking amazing artist. I almost brought, so my mom, so what was it? It was coronation last year. You two came and entered into what Kaid has, it's called the Dirty Dozen, which basically is artists come and they make 12 of the same item to donate to Largesse for the Rain. And it doesn't have to be like exactly the same, but it's like What did you make? Was it you or your husband who had the embalming, the brain scoopers?
That was my husband.
Yep, brain scoopers. My mom has it displayed in the house because she got to take one.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
oh my God, he's gonna love that. I'm gonna tell him.
It's displayed in her bed, like displayed with all of her other like Egyptian stuff. She like has it on like a little mount. It's fucking adorable. I just had to tell you that.
That's awesome. He's gonna love to hear that.
Good. I love that. But yeah, no, I just was curious because a lot of the art that I've seen you do for yourself has been Egyptian. And I was just wondering if there was like a specific thoroughfare as to why. But I mean, it makes sense if you've always been interested in it. And I like the idea of being later period so that you can encompass more historical things. And it's really funny because I have started, so Brienne is 13th century Gaelic-ish, mostly Varangian Guard though. So a lot of his stuff is Varangian, which makes him like a mercenary. He is Irish, Rus-ish, but because he did all of this research into the Varangian Guard, he has access to everything from 13th century because he talks about traveling through these different towns and like encountering people from the Silk Road and like all this other shit. And that's how I never gave a shit about persona or like I can't because I've been Rosie for the same amount of time I've been Jessica. Like literally. So I don't have a persona because I just am. So it's really funny that like he does this but he pretty much only wears Viking and Byzantine and that kind of stuff. So he'll dress for his queens, which is how Sia got him in Egyptians, and how Steina had him in late period Irish. He kind of like floats everywhere because he had all these interactions, and I'm like, fuck it, I can do whatever I want. I have now found a way to tie whatever outfit I have on to the Silk Road or to the Varangian Guard map in some form or another. And I'm just like, so when people are just like, what's your persona? And I'm like, a wife. He brings me home shit and I wear it. And they're just like, well, don't you have any independence? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. I'm just lazy and don't want to do the research into my own persona. But I'm going to go make that event work over there. That work? Are we cool? You go do the thing, I'll go do my thing, and we'll be great, right? That's my, like, those are my thoughts on persona. And it's not really a common thing, because I love when people put in all of their effort into it. Like, I love when people research it. It's so fucking magical. But, like, I personally just don't give a shit.
Yeah. With Egyptian stuff, it's just really easy to find. Because there's really good records of it. And a lot of museums take very good photos and have really helpful information on it. I know I do mostly Egyptian stuff, and that's not just because of the persona thing. It's because my leatherworking is actually all Viking stuff. I don't get to talk about that a lot because that's what I do all day long. So my brain does not work. It just does not work. That's just, I can't not work. So most of my designs are, have Celtic knotwork. It's not historical because I like to come up with my own designs for it, but it's all knotwork. So, but I've done some. I'm working on a lot more garb for my husband because why not? We're in a downtime. He needs garb. I need garb. So I've actually started like hand embroidering. And the one tunic that I finished for him was all hand embroidered. I'm working on another one right now. And that first one, I actually took the design from the Book of Kells. So at least it's not like if I use it historically for an art entry, I've got like the images from the Book of Kells from it. And the current one I'm working on is my own designs. So um, lots of embroidery, and I actually really, really enjoy embroidery. It's kind of soothing. So, except for when I talk to myself.
Oh yeah, no, you basically what Brandon says, because that's his thing. He has like lots of things. He's magic at singing, but he doesn't get a lot of opportunity to do that because he fights a lot, and a lot of the bardic happens during fighting.
Oh yeah.
But he is also phenomenal at embroidery. Like,
yeah, I saw us at the first,
I can construct things. He just makes it pretty. That's what he got. But it was really funny. Sorry, I only really recently started to recreate things, and funnily enough, this is one of the very first things I tried to recreate. So this is at the Getty Villa. And it doesn't have arms, but like the only difference is they have it right here. They have it tied like this, but I don't like it touching my face. So instead of tying it, I pleated it. And I even have, like, I learned that Greeks, when they were wearing a chiton like this, they would tie it right underneath their chest. I didn't realize that was a thing that happens, but then like you do this, and then you make, like, they tied it with the special rope, and then they tied it with the special knot, and it does a thing, and then you just learn really cool shit sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, that was really fun. I made 2 chitons off of statues for the very first time. For Festival of the Rose last year, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. That sounds right. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I don't know. Time's a construct, and I've lost track of what queens and kings happened and some time ago. But yeah, no, I would never enter it into a place, but I still did the thing just because I was just like, wonder if I could do the thing. And I did. It was cool. I'm really bad at 3D. It's hard for me. Okay, so our very last question, I'm saving it for last because it made me laugh really hard. The question is, did you have that Egyptology book with the bright gold cover as a kid? And I laughed because I did. I absolutely did. And I'm going to pull it up on Amazon because I was the kid who always wanted to learn about death. So like I read lots of Shakespeare and lots of Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, and lots of Sherlock Holmes and murder mysteries and all of those things. And I got heavily into the Egyptian death rites and a lot of their funerary practices. And I was just all about pyramids, and everything was so interesting. And like literally since I was 2 years old, I've always been in love with like the sort of Egyptian history that they had. Hold on. I closed my Amazon like a silly human. Let's see. Open Sesame. Nope. There we go. I just had it open on the wrong thing. Egyptology. Any Egyptology books as a kid while I'm trying to pull this up?
You know, I didn't really have a whole lot of books as a kid. Books I did have were all for school. Didn't exactly grow up with a whole lot of money. No. Like I probably could have answered before even seeing it. No, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I also wasn't a fan of reading. I'm not the greatest reader. I had bad experiences with it, trying to learn how to read quickly. I'm one of those people that if something doesn't captivate me, my brain will just wander, and then I'll just have to read paragraphs over again and over again and over again. So it wasn't exactly a great experience learning how to read when I was a child. Didn't have a lot of books. Even now when I do researching things, I'm a very visual person. So I tend to look at a lot of photos, and when I do reading, it's more of if I need any additional information that I can't get from images. Um, so many books that I even own now are like I own the Egyptian Book of the Dead for Ani, and I did the scroll from that, and I bought that because I was like, I can't, like, photos online won't do it justice, it just won't. And there's so much information on it. So when I buy books now, it's specifically because I'm going to be using them for art and
For research.
and reading is always end up being secondary.
Well, first of all, that breaks my heart, and I still want to hug you. Secondly, that's fine. This book has lots of pictures, and it's really fun. But I absolutely understand, because, like, I worked with books. Literally, my job before quarantine was to be the publicity for books. And it was anywhere from a book of poetry to a science fiction novel to a book by Bella Thorne. Like, it spanned spectrums, so it was really hard to, like, focus on, like, learning how to get good at one thing. And the books now are just, like, kind of awful, which sucks. Because, like, I like reading. I've always loved reading. I love authors. I literally have an entire arm of tattoos dedicated to different authors, but I just, like, don't want to read. So I bought this Egypt book last year to make something out of. And it's, like, all pictures, just with little descriptions of, like, where, like, do you need to cite this for some specific reason? Here's your citation of what this is. And I'm just like, fuck
yeah. Yeah, I grew up more as a math and science kid. So if I did read, it was because it was part of, it was a school thing. Like, I loved biology books, but it was very, like, I appreciate people that could write and really, like, write well, engagingly. Mm-hmm. My brain doesn't like the fluff. So I mean, I love it. I love people that could do the fluff, but my brain, I want absolutes. So I went to school for psychology. I did research for psychology. So when I did research papers, it was very XYZ. This is what you need. Here's the info that was found. It was very matter of fact. If you needed to find some information, it was right there. So my brain works well with that, even though I really should have just scrapped it and went to school for art. But so
it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah, has always been science fact based and not, like, for enjoyment. Like, I just can't. Like, I'll either fall asleep or my brain will wander if I'm trying to read for fun. And I've tried over the years. I've tried reading books that were, like, you know, not science fact, and I'm one of those people that if my husband makes fun of me, but, like, the minute I stop moving, I'm asleep. Like, and I'm one of those people that will, if I'm tired and I stop moving and you don't let me sleep, like, lay down, I'll sleep sitting up. And I have fallen asleep sitting up before. So the minute I quit moving, it's like everything shuts off. It's like, all right, you're going to sleep now.
Give me 2 seconds. Brandon's leaving for work.
Okay. Oh, interesting. The cap on my lid just broke. Look at that. Weird. Just opened it up.
Brandon wants to say hi.
Okay. Hi.
I can't hear you, but.
Oh.
Stop. I can't hear you, but I'm off to work.
It's weird seeing you in a shirt and tie. It's just awkward.
Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you.
Hi, baby. Oh, and then our dog.
Puppy.
Oh, baby.
Brandon
I thought it worked.
I will.
Okay. Let me. Oh, what have I done? Pressing all the wrong buttons. It's okay. Okay. Sorry. He's just like, fuck, I have to leave. And I'm like, no, you're okay, but yeah, no, that's that. That's what I got. I still want to meet your favorite tree. And I'm gonna hold you to it. So one of these days, back hopefully when COVID ends, I'm gonna come to your house, or I'm gonna come to your ranch, even if you don't have a house yet, because I just want to meet your favorite tree. That's what I want. I'm gonna take a picture with it, and that's it. That's what I want in my life. My new current life goal. I would like to meet Sekhet's favorite tree. Thank you so much for coming and doing this with me.
No problem. Thank you.
It was so fun. Please do not forget to tell your husband that he's incredible at art and that people love him for his art and for his amazingness. And thank you. I'm gonna hold you to it. I'm gonna meet your favorite tree. Gonna do it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.